Hello and welcome to stampingcatcrew.com. Today we're going to make this super easy Merry and Bright Christmas card. It actually has a background technique. It is one of the color challenges. So this is the inspiration photo. Hopefully you can see it on my iPad. It had some blacks, grays, and turquoise blues and some white. And so I wanted to create that modeled background, and there's actually a technique that's been around for forever. Don't see many people using it much anymore, but I'm going to set the card aside, and I'm going to get out the basic gray cardstock. It's cut by 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. This is the background that we're going to be creating and stamping on. I've got some Craft Whisper White ink here. I'm going to open that up, and then people call this saran wrap, or I actually just used a baggie because I've always got tons of them hanging around, and I crumpled it up until it was really wrinkly looking, and then I just picked a spot and I started inking and dabbing, and I did that basically all over for the background of my card. And you can turn it around so you don't have the same pattern repeating, but it's basically just pouncing. And because that baggie is all crinkled up, you're getting some almost like a snow effect. So it's a perfect background for a Christmas card and something that's really, really simple to do. So add a little more, and then we're going to set this aside and let that dry. Close up the Whisper White. I'm going to show you what I did for the base. So we started with a black A2 card base, and it's folded landscape style. It's cut at 11 inches by 4 1/4, and it's scored and folded at 5 1/2. I love those cards that stand like this. So just one of those things that makes me happy. I have a white cardstock for the inside, and I'm going to take the snail adhesive. Anytime you have a darker cardstock for a base, you're going to need to put in the white for the inside, but even when you have a lighter colored base, it's just a really nice finishing touch to add that on the inside. So we've cut a tempting turquoise, and you can see from the sample card there is just a bare minimum border. So basically did it like 1/8 of an inch bigger than the 5 1/4 by 4 inch. And you just wanted that just hint of tempting turquoise around the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and add some snail adhesive, and we can go ahead and center this on the base. And then we'll be able to center our basic gray right on top of that. So the stamp sets that I used for the background, used a couple of them. One of the favorites, it's been around, it's probably one of the longest running stamp sets, is Lovely as a Tree. And I did that for the tree background. I did it in Memento ink. You can use the black archival ink if you want. And then I did the sentiment Merry and Bright from the Season to Sparkle stamp set in the Holiday Mini Catalog, and I used this star as the stars for the background. And then I always tell you, remember to make your envelopes pretty. So I did the trees, and I added some of the tempting turquoise stars there as well. So I'm going to grab our basic gray that we inked up. Flip this over here. I always keep a piece of scrap paper around when I'm doing stamping that's going to go off the ends, or I'm doing a technique that I want to have some scratch paper to be able to scribble off the edges. So we want to make sure and get the trees evenly inked up so you don't have any bare spots. And then essentially you're not quite going halfway, probably just a little bit below halfway. And the trees are just going to come off the edge just a bit. You want to go straight down and straight back up with even pressure. And that leaves your trees right there where you want them to be. The other color that I brought in was actually the classic pad Tempting Turquoise. And I'm just going to scatter some of the turquoise stars around. And you're going to have some that go off the page. It actually is going to give you a nicer flow if you can have that. Do a couple more. I'm going to close up the Tempting Turquoise so we don't make a mess. And then in order to not smudge this, it's going to take a little while for the craft ink to dry. So I'm actually going to add adhesive to this layer of cardstock in from the edges. And we have nothing that wraps around, so I can go ahead and layer this with that tiny turquoise border all the way around. And you just want that peeking through. And since everything is down and where it's supposed to be, I'm going to grab some rhinestones here. When I open up a pack of rhinestones, I always separate them by size, and I put them in some little cello baggies. So just one of my little tricks, and that way I can always have the sizes together where they go. Always use my paper snips to pick up the rhinestones. It does make it easier for me. We're going to spatter those on the center of each of those stars. And that's it. We wanted to bring in that little blast of turquoise again. So I did a sentiment with the Merry and Bright, and I flagged the end, and then I did the same thing with the Tempting Turquoise right underneath to give that a little bit of splash of color. So I'm going to flip that over backwards. We really have nothing that's popped up on this card, so it'll be easy to mail as well. And I'm going to add that just below the trees, right to the end of the paper there. And I've taken some of our mini sequin black trim, and I'm going to grab one of our glue dots here. And I'm actually going to put the glue dot down right here. I'm going to fold that mini sequin trim in half, and I'm going to add it right here. And the reason that I'm not too worried about closing up that center part is I'm actually going to grab one of my big size rhinestones, and I'm going to add that right onto the center there to add some interest and sparkle. So take a look at the finished card with our cute little envelope here. That's that. And then one more peek at our inspiration, which is this guy right here. So you can see them side by side. So that was our inspiration picture for this week's color challenge, and this is the finished card. And you saw how quick and easy that was, even to do a technique background. So that's it. Thanks for stopping by today, and happy creating.